what happened is that if we have always seen things through a certain lenses, let's say orange color, we take for granted that reality is orange, that the snow mountain is orange. Okay. And what happens if someone comes to us and say, no, the snow mountain is not orange? He's wrong. Look, I have always seen it orange. But then one day, we are able to see that we are wearing glasses. Maybe we have not been yet able to take out the glasses and to see the white snow mountain white. But we know, we understand that actually it's a reflection of our own self, the glasses that we are wearing. It is a quite shocking experience, because then we start to question everything that we took for granted. And we start to ask ourselves, but then what is reality? How can I trust any color that I see? How can I trust anything? If everything that I took for granted as real, suddenly I see that actually it is not. I can tell you it's not a very pleasurable experience in the beginning. It brings fear. Because we create our own certainties in life. And we base ourselves with these certainties. And one of the certainties that we create is that the reality that we perceive, in the way that we perceive, is the actual reality. Okay? So, let's analyze it a bit. One example I always gave, but I will continue giving the same until I don't find a better one. Okay. As I play the bell, we listen to the sound, right? If I would ask you, are we all here listening to the same sound? Without philosophizing, without making it too complicated. Yes or not? You know, I'm not playing one bell for each person. So if we ask, are we listening to the same sound? What would be our answer? Yes. Now, let's analyze how it happens when we listen to the sound. How it works. Basically, we have 3 + 1 factors that make our experience of listening to the bell. The first 3 factors are called contact. And the 4th factor is called discernment. Okay? So how does that work? The first 3 factors are, there is the sense object, which would be what? The vibration in the air, as I play the bell. Okay? We have the vibration in the air of the sound. We have our sense power, which is our own physical ear. We have our sense consciousness, which is a part of our brain, our mind, a part of our mind that takes that vibration that have been perceived by our ear and elaborates that information and say, okay, this is the sound that you're listening. Okay? And then we have discernment, which is the part of our mind which takes that information of that sound and gives a name to it and connect it to emotions, to concepts. Oh, that's a singing bell representing emptiness or whatever, okay? So, now, let's look, all of us here. Where as I play the bell, the first thing that we would say, yes, we are listening all to the same bell. Correct? The same sound. Let's analyze it. The vibration of the air that arrives in my ears and the vibration of the air that arrives in the ear of each one of you, is it the same or is it slightly different? It's slightly different. According to the position, the distance, the way the sound reflects, how it goes. So the actual object of perception, the sound, is not the same. Okay? Our ear, our sense power, our ear, they are the same or they are different? Different. No? We are all human beings, I suppose, so basically we have very, very similar ear sense power. Okay, a dog, a cat, a turtle will have a different one. No, according to the physical ear, we listen to frequencies in a different way. But still, one person will listen in one way, another person will listen another way. One person is more sensible, another person is less sensible. It depends to each one of us, you know. It depends if you stayed half of your life listening to music very loudly, you will have a different capacity, you know. So our ear sense power is not the same, right? It's similar. But we should always remember that Chana Mumai, which means whatever is similar is different by definition. If something is similar, by definition, it will be different. It cannot be the same if it's similar. It's different. So, we have different object, different ear sense power. Now, the sound consciousness, the ear sense consciousness, the consciousness that elaborates the information of sound that comes from our ear. Is it the same for all of us? No. And the value that we attribute to that experience of sound, is it the same or is it different? The discernment. It's actually very different. So the question again is, are we listening to the same sound? No. Because what happens if I play the sound and we go like this? I cannot listen to it anymore. So then, why can I listen to it? Because I block my ear sense power, so I do not receive the information, I do not elaborate it, I cannot perceive it. The sound is there. The point is that reality exists through a union of external reality, which is sound, form, colors, light, touch, smell, taste, okay? Energy. It's basically vibrations and so on. So external sense objects that for us, these objects can only exist to our own perception of reality. These objects can only exist through our senses. That's why, for a blind person, light, form, color, shape, as we know, doesn't exist. Right? For a deaf person, sound doesn't exist as we know sound. It may exist as a vibration that the person is sensible to feel the touch of the vibration of sound. Maybe yes, you know. It's normal that when we actually block some of our senses, the other senses, they get more sensible. And basically the stronger one is the eye, then we have the ears, then there is touch, smell, taste. So if we are not able to see, we will listen more carefully. If we're not able to listen, we will see more carefully, and then the touch will be better. So, if we were deaf, sound doesn't exist. There exists a vibration that we can perceive through touch, maybe. But that's not sound. So, what is reality? Is the union of object of perception and observer. Okay. Objects of perception means sound, shape, color, taste, touch. Objects, which means the so-called external reality, plus the sixth object of perception, which is the so-called mental images, concepts, memories, ideas, mental projections. Okay? Now, each one of us, inevitably, whenever we see something, whenever we listen to something, anything, we are totally incapable of perceiving that object independently of our own selves. We have many layers of filters in between us and the object. It's like if we have many glasses in between. There is the filter of our past experiences. There is the filter of the education we received. There is the filter of the traumas we have had. There is the filter of the culture in which we grow, which means also the filter of the worldview that we have. There is the filter of our expectations. There is the filter of our desires, of our knowledge, of our understanding. You know? And there are quite many filters. So, the first thing that is important for us to understand is that we live reality through our own paradigm. Reality is the union of object of perception and observer. And the observer, it means that we come with all our baggage, all these filters that we bring together. Okay. For example, when we see something, one thing that for me was very clear some time ago, I was telling this some days ago. For example, when we learn something new, suddenly we start to see it everywhere. Something that we never saw before, we never took awareness of it, and suddenly we have awareness of that. You know? Like for me, this was very, very clear. It was something quite stupid, but it was very clear. When, because of the center, I needed to check some things of the building and so on. And then we may need to make one electric house. Basically because the center is growing a lot. And then in the future plans, we need to plan together with the electrical company because the amount of electricity that we consume goes above a certain level, and we want to put solar panels, and because of all many things together, they need to provide electricity to us in middle voltage, and we need to transform it into low voltage. Anyhow, I don't need to go through the technical reasons for that. The practical fact is that to do that, we need to build a little house where to make this transformation. And this little house is actually very big. And then I was quite shocked when I heard the size of it, which is like 2.5 meters wide by 6 meters. So I was like, wow, you know. And they told me, no, that's the normal thing, you know. I said, no, come on, that cannot be. Then I started to look around. And it happened 2 times. I was driving from here to Malpensa. And I started seeing that electric houses everywhere. They started popping out just like mushrooms after a day with rain and sun, you know. And they're like, just between here and Malpensa, maybe there are 50 of these, and they are really big, you know. They are really, really big. And I had never seen them before. So this is very clear that in the moment that we take into consideration some aspect of reality, then we start seeing it. Why couldn't I see it before? And if someone would have asked me, are there any electric houses between here and Malpensa? I would say, no. It's like some time ago I was talking to a friend, and we say, oh, this is like this. And he said, no, it cannot be like this. And he said, why? Oh, because I've never seen it. And I was making a joke and say, okay. No? But that's how we function very often. But the very interesting thing is that when we open our mind to something, then we start seeing it clearly. So it's very clear that what we perceive is a reflection of our knowledge, of our experience, of our understanding. You know? It's like, for example, once I saw this myself, we start learning, for example, how to read. I'm not good on that, but I learned few things, no? When we look at the expression of the face, we can see on the face aspects of the health of the person. Okay? Then suddenly you start seeing things that normally you would not see. The point I want to get is that everything that we perceive, it goes through the filter of our mind. Not the conceptual mind only, of our experiences, of our traumas, of the wounds we have, of the joys we have, of the expectations we have, everything. Okay? So, the question is, if we put, okay, again, another aspect. I think it happened already to everyone to watch the same movie and in a gap of few years. Is it the same movie? Do you perceive it in the same way? For me, for example, happened to go to a friend and say, oh, you need to see this movie, it's so nice, it's so good, Then we go there, watch the movie, and I say, well, that's really bad, you know. Or something that before I could not enjoy, then suddenly I say, wow, how nice it is. In between the ears, have someone come and change the scenes of the movie? Did the actors change their performance? No. But what happened? The main character of the movie changed. Which is us. Okay. So, if we take 2 people and we put in front of the same painting, the same movie, the same scene, the same situation, do they experience the same thing or they experience 2 things different? It can be similar, but remember, if it is similar by definition, it's different. How high or low is the possibility of two people to be in front of the same object and see it exactly in the same way? 0. The only way for two people to experience that situation, that object, that experience, that in the same identical way, is by being the same person. There is no other way for that. Okay? So, because our senses are different, our experiences are different, our concepts, we are different in all the ways. So, naturally, we will have, a different way of seeing things. And this is one of the issues, and don't correct me if I'm wrong, but in the previous years, in science, one of the things that have been taken, the observer in an experience has a big impact in the result. Right? And this actually makes things more difficult, because we want to get results out of a research which are somehow independent of the observer. But that's not truly possible. If you take the same things and you change the cultural context, you change many aspects, it changes the reality. Okay? So, how does reality work? We are in front, for example, okay, let's start with sound. I understood this, one time with a friend coming back from Holland. There was this click together. They were speaking Dutch in the airport, or in the airplane, And Dutch for me looks really like a difficult language. So they were speaking Dutch. And then suddenly came this clear idea, which is saying, wow, what is actually language? Just sounds. Language is a convention that we make, that these sounds represent these concepts. As we are talking right now, basically what arrives to the ears of each one of you, of me, is only sounds. Nothing more than that. What do we do to the sounds? We attribute meaning. It's actually a very powerful concept. Because this means that anytime that someone talks to us, actually we listen what we want to listen, We listen what we are able to listen, not what the other person wants to say. I had few experiences of this, so strong. One time a friend said something to me, we were in the car, and this person said something to me. And I was thinking, no, cannot be saying this, it's so offensive. And then my first reaction is what? React. What do you mean? How can you say that? It's not like that, Then, I had a buffer at the time, wait, it cannot be saying this, it's too outside of the situation, Why would this person now come and offend me? There is no point on that, So I waited. And I did something which is quite nice, which is pause and rewind. Basically, stop for one moment and re-listen to the sound. Because we have the memory of the sound, independently of the name, of the value that we attributed to it. And I start re-listening 2-3 times to the sound again, then until I understood what the person was saying, and it made perfectly sense. Another time I was in the United States together with the Kuten Lama. We were together in the airport. I was leaving and he accompanied me to the airport. And we were having tea. And then he said something to me. He asked me something. And I just thought, he cannot be asking this. No, that's not possible. No. How could he dare to say something like that, you know? It was also, again, something quite offensive, quite strange to be asked. Then I said, like if I didn't understand, I said, excuse me, I didn't get it. And then he repeated, I said, no. Is he really asking that, you know? And then he repeated again a third time. And then I said, okay, if he's saying this, I need to say something, no? And then I was about to say something when suddenly I re-listened inside and I understood that he was saying the most stupid thing regarding the tea. But because mixed Tibetan with English, I understood something completely different. Completely different. And if I had reacted in the first time, and he had said, no, I didn't meant that, most probably I would say it's not true. So what happens? When we listen, it's just sound coming in. And what we do? We just attribute value to it. We just say it is this or it is that. Okay? Is this clear? So one very small advice. Never say you said. We never say you said this, you said that. We say I understood this, I understood that. What you meant, what you said, I have no idea. Even many times while teaching, I ask, have you understood? And people say, yes. And I was thinking, what have they understood? You know? Because verbal communication is really weak. Anyhow, so is it clear that when we listen to someone, when we listen to something, what arrives in our ears is just sounds? And we attribute meaning to that sound. Is this clear? Okay. Now, following the same logic, when we see something, what appears to our eyes? People, objects, and so on, or shapes and colors? That's more shocking. That what appears to our eyes are just shapes and colors. What do we do to these shapes and colors? We attribute meaning. And we can give completely different meaning according to our culture, our background, our knowledge, our understanding, our emotions, and so on. It's like if you walk through the forest and you have no knowledge about plants and nature. It's just a whole place full of trees and green. While if you go to the forest and you understand the plants, it's a whole different universe. You can see a whole pharmacy around you, you know. You can see the relationship between one plant and the other. You can understand where there is water. You can understand how the water flows under the earth by the way how the trees are above the earth. It's like, I have not much knowledge about that, but when going around with Pete, my mom's husband, and has a great knowledge about that. It's wonderful, like, okay, he knows the name of every plant in Latin, but I don't care much about that, that's not the point. But we're walking and say, oh, can you see here? Here there is a cross of water. Why? Because you see the tree grows circling, how to say, it's twisting. Then you see also, you say, oh, here is a place where there is a lot of thunder. Why? Because there is a lot of water under there. And then how do you know? Because this plant is growing. Now you look up and you can see the tree where the thunder hit. And like, this is just the beginning, you know, there's so many things, looking at this and that. Then as you walk, take something that for me is nothing more, nothing less than something green growing there, you know. And he takes and say, oh, you know, this has this quality, that quality. If you feel sick, you can use for this, you can use for that. So basically why? He has this knowledge, so he reflects this on what he's seeing around. So what happened to us is that everything that we see, we attribute value to it, reflecting our knowledge, reflecting our experiences, reflecting our traumas, our culture. So again, if we have two people in front of the same object, they are different objects. So what happens when two people look at the same situation, they are together, and they have two very different perceptions of it? Who is right and who is wrong? You know, when we are with someone and we say this is like this, and the other person says no, it is not like this, it is like that. Well, how do we know who is right and who is wrong? Or is there right and wrong? No? We take, for example, can I keep passing the singing bowl? This is a small one, this is too heavy. We take, for example, this object, okay? I go there, I buy it, I pay quite an expensive price for it. I put it in my home as a holy object for my meditation. I think I become more spiritual because I have a nice bell in my home, no? So I put that object there, and there it is, very nice and cool. Then I come back home from work at one day, and I don't find anymore my holy singing bowl. Then I go around, I'm quite attached to it, I cannot find it. Then suddenly I pass by the corner of the garden and I sit in the floor full of food for the dog inside. And there is a dog eating from it, you know. I can understand that because while the dog is eating, I listen to some sound because his collar is hitting on it, you know. And then, what is my reaction? Who dare doing something like this, you know? I love the dog, but that's my holy object for my meditation. How can you do that? Then we go to the child or whoever. And I said, oh, you don't know how cool? While the dog is eating, makes such a nice sound. I really like that new dog bowl, you know, that new bowl to give food for the dog. It's really cool, thank you. And then we get upset. And we say, no, you cannot use for that. And then the other person gets upset. And who is right and who is wrong? Okay, how do we know if a perception is correct or if a perception is not correct? If the object has or not the ability to fulfill the functions that are attributed to it. Okay? So this object, can it be an object for making sound for meditation? Yes, so my perception is correct. Can it be a nice bowl for giving food for the dog and make little nice sounds while the dog is eating? Yes. So the perception is right. Now, the question is not who is right and who is wrong. The question is, how do we want to use it? I bought it and I use it for meditation. Okay? What would be a wrong perception? A chocolate cake. I put it upside down and I think it's a chocolate cake. For example, a more clear example of a wrong perception. We see one, how do you say in English? Mannequin. In the shops, there is this fake people dressed with clothes. How do you say that in English? Come on, someone should. Huh? Okay, I explain the object. Right? So, when in the shop we have like this sort of fake people where you put the clothes on, okay? Mannequin. Okay. Anyhow. So, yeah, mannequin. It happened one time in Milan that we had a very small shop in the center, before Albagnano center existed. And what happened was that there was a mannequin in the entrance of the shop, in the window of the shop, dressed with Tibetan clothes of a woman. And for some period, some people would not come anymore into the shop. And then after some time they were talking to each other, say, why you don't come to the shop? Oh, you know, that lady is always there. And I don't like her so much, you know. She never comes to the shop. Yes, she's there. I have seen her. Basic people thought that the mannequin was this person. So what happened if I am walking on the road, I see a mannequin, and I think it's a person? And I truly believe it's the person. Is it a person in my reality? No, it's a wrong perception. Why? Because the object cannot talk, cannot do the functions that a person should be able to do. If I think this is a chocolate cake, why it's a wrong perception? Because it cannot fulfill the functions and the characteristics of the concept chocolate cake. Okay? So, why it's so important for us to understand that there are wrong perceptions? Because this shows us that external reality does exist. But within the correct perception, how many possibilities are in this object right now? Correct. 1, 2, 10, 50, 1,000, countless. I would say countless possibilities. Right? But now, when we look at it, how does it appear to us? As having countless possibilities and we choose one of them? Or it appears as being what we see? In other words, we choose one possibility within the countless possibilities, and we think that the object is the possibility that we chose and nothing more. I say the same thing with other words. Reality is subjective, right? Which means that whatever we see, whatever we listen, whatever we perceive, it depends on the observer, it depends on our own mindset, it depends on our own emotions, no? Like, we see the same situation depending on the emotions of the day, depending on how our body feels, we change the perception. So reality is subjective. But when we see things, how do they appear to us? As being subjective or as being objective? How do we relate to reality? as being subjective or as being objective? Objective. We think that my perception is the reality. And if you have a different one, you are wrong. And we can fight for that. Okay? Now, we listen to the sound of the bell. Okay? And it's a pleasurable sound. How does it work? We listen to the sound. Object, sense power, sense consciousness, value that we attribute, and at the same time we have a sensation. Okay? The sensation that we experience can be pleasurable, unpleasant, or neutral. When we have a pleasant sensation out of a beautiful sound for us, and the sound stops, we can have three possible reactions: attraction to that sound, aversion to that sound, or indifference. If we like the sound, what we have? Attraction. But truly, what are we attracted to? The sound or the sensation of pleasure? Truly, we are attracted to the sensation of pleasure. But what do we connect the sensation of pleasure with? The external object. So if I want to feel that again, what do I need? To sound, so I need to buy one of these. They are for sale in the shop if you want. But what happened is that I want to listen to that sound again, so I must have one. Okay? But what happened is that I go and I get one and I play it again. But the actual sensation of pleasure, does it come only because of the sound? Or it depends on the sense power? It depends on the value that I attribute? It's not one thing only. As we saw before, our own experience of listening to the sound is made of object, sense, consciousness, discernment. So what happens if our discernment changes? What happens when our own perception in the moment changes? It doesn't bring us pleasure as before. Then what we say, I need to buy a new singing bowl. What happens? Okay, we just go one step behind. So basically what we saw was, I listen to the sound, I get a sensation of pleasure. So if I want to have pleasure again, what I want? More of that sound. Okay? Stop here for the moment. Now we listen to a sound that we don't like. Okay, let's make this sound. And I don't like it, I don't know you, but for me it's really not nice. Okay? And then, if we don't want to listen to that sound anymore, what sensation that it brings? Unpleasant sensation. So to stop our unpleasant sensation, we want the sound to stop. Okay? So, what happened? We want the sound to stop. Why? Because we want our unpleasant sensation to stop. So if I put my hand near to the microphone, already, no, don't do that. We get aversion. Okay? So if we look, simple two sounds. How do we work? When there is a sensation of pleasure, our tendency is to connect that sensation of pleasure to the sense object. when we have a sensation of suffering, our tendency is to connect it to one object, sound. So, if I want to avoid that sensation of suffering, I want to avoid the sound. If I want to get more of the sensation of pleasure, I'm going to look for that sound, or similar sounds. And we create relationships. Oh, this makes me happy, that makes me suffer. Sounds, images, touch, smell. Okay? So basically, what we do, we believe, we act as if the external objects were the causes of our suffering and the causes of our pleasure. And what we do, we create a relationship of total dependence. In order to get more pleasure, I need more beautiful sounds. I need more beautiful images. I need more pleasurable food. I need whatever I can do which I think that makes me happy. And I don't want to suffer, so I need to avoid this, I need to avoid that, I need to avoid the other. So basically, we create a relationship in which we see that I exist as something totally independent of the reality that I perceive and vice versa. And because what I see exists as an object of pleasure independent of me, I need it in order for me to feel pleasure. I don't know if it's clear, this process. Repeat once again. Because I see that the object, the sound of the bell, for example, exists as a pleasurable object, as an object that gives pleasure, independently of me as an observer. I create a dependence with it in order for my own happiness. I depend on it to get to be happy. When actually, my experience of pleasure depends on what? The object also, but my own perception, the value that I attribute, my own senses. Okay? Now, what happened when we start creating, we're living that already, but what happened when we relate to everything that we perceive and we label it as cause of happiness, cause of suffering, cause of not happiness or suffering? We put the objects and the situations in the three categories that we saw those last days. Friend, enemy, indifferent. Towards friend we have attraction, attachment, desire, jealousy. Towards enemy, aversion, anger, hatred, envy, and so on. Okay? So basically what is happening is that we label everything as cause of happiness, cause of suffering, indifferent. And we don't understand that we are the ones labeling it. That reality by itself doesn't exist in the way how we perceive it. I don't know if it's clear, this. The same situation can be pleasurable at one moment and pleasant in another moment, because we change. The same object can be pleasurable for one person and pleasurable for another person, because they have different perceptions. So, how can we deal with this in a practical level? Can we stop seeing reality as if it was objective? Are we able to stop perceiving reality as something solid, independent from us? I cannot. I've tried, huh? But I cannot. Inevitably, when we look at things, it's there. What have I to do with that? Nothing, you know. So, how does reality appear to us? As being objective or subjective? Objective. We'll make another example that maybe helps us to understand better. Everything that we see, listen, touch, the objects of our five senses, are they permanent or impermanent? Make the question another way. Are the objects constantly in transformation or they are static? They are constantly in transformation, right? But when we see a person today and we are going to meet that person a few days after, who do we expect to meet? The same person. Can that happen? No. How can we meet the same person? We're always changing. So again, the reality around us, objects, people, situation, everything, are they permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, right? But yet, how does the impermanent reality appear to us as if it was permanent? And do we believe in it? Yes. How do we relate to the impermanent reality? As if it was permanent. And what happened? We suffer like hell. Because the most crazy thing is that we relate to the impermanent reality as if it was permanent, and when it manifests clear as being impermanent, we get upset with it. So there's something wrong with it. It cannot be impermanent, it cannot be changing. Why? Because I expect differently. Okay? Similar to that, in other words, we see impermanent phenomena as being permanent, and we grasp at it as being permanent. This is called ignorance. Ignorance is to grasp at reality in a way that reality is not. To relate to reality in a way that reality is not. Now, similar to that, we live in a reality that is subjective. And I think it's quite clear to us that existence and reality is subjective, right? But now, how does it appear to us without analyzing? As being objective or as being subjective? Sadly, it appears as being objective. And how do we react to it? How do we relate to it? As if it was objective. And this creates this barrier, this distance between us and everything that we perceive, as if one had nothing to do with the other. And this creates the dependence in which we live. In order for me to feel what I feel, I need this. I need that. So here we are constantly trying to change the world in order to change our perception and our experience. I'm sorry if I put in the following words, but truly, we do not care about the world. We care about our sensations. I'm sorry if I'm so direct. You know, what we are really attached to is not where we are, what is happening, it's how do we feel for it. You know, when we drink a nice glass of water, and I feel pleasure, truly, what am I attracted to? The glass of water or the sensation of pleasure? The sensation of pleasure. So actually, what we really want is to have more sensation of pleasure. So what we try to do constantly, change the world to have more pleasure and less suffering. Because we see it as if it existed all independently of the value that we attribute to it. And we see as if our own inner experience of pleasure or suffering is a result of what is around us. Let's make another example. When we get angry, or when we are jealous, or envy, or when we have fear, okay? Any negative emotion, or when we feel strong attachment for something. Our object of anger, how does it appear to us? As being a reflection of our own emotions and perceptions and projections, or as being an object of anger by its own characteristics. When we are in front of an object of desire, I want you, I need you, you know? How do we see that object of desire? As being a reflection of our own projections and our own desires and our own culture and experience and projections and so on? Or it is an object that by itself will give me pleasure. And it's something that has, by its own characteristics, will make me happy. Okay. So, if we look, we'll see that there is one very basic aspect in anger, in attachment, in desire, in jealousy, in fear, and all of these emotions. There is one very common part, which is like the common ground on which these negative emotions build up. This common ground is the certainty that that object exists in an autonomous, independent, inherent way as it appears. So the object of anger is an object of anger by its own characteristics. The object of desire is an inherently existing object of desire. It's inherently an object of desire. The object of anger is inherently an object of anger. Okay? I don't know if this is clear. For example, when there is desire, how does the object appear to us? In a clear way, or does it appear with more qualities than it has normally? When we are really with desire for something, our tendency is to say, make it more than what it is, to justify our desire. When we have anger, the same. We'll find faults and all the ways to justify our aversion. But what happens when we have a very strong object of desire and then suddenly our perception changes? Our perspective changes. Or we have a lot of anger to someone and suddenly our perspective changes. Does the emotion remain the same? No. No? The example, if I have someone, again, the example I gave many times, but it works, so we would follow the same. I am walking on a road, on a big city. Someone comes from behind, pushes me strongly. I fall on the floor, break my arm, with even like an external fracture, exposed fracture. And it's like painful, right? I've never had that, but I believe it's quite painful. Then comes the ambulance, take me to the hospital, and then there am I in the hospital. And what feeling I have towards the person that pushed me? Attraction, aversion, indifference. Supposedly, aversion. You know, there I was, walking in the road, Needn't do anything to anyone as I know. Comes someone, pushes me, run away. I must catch that person. I must call my lawyer. What am I going to do? I need to get something out of that. And then there we are, you know, thinking about what to do, how to do. And that's an object of anger, of aversion, clearly. Then as we are there, comes the police. And we say, oh, finally there is the police. I can catch that person, hopefully. And the police come and say, oh, look, we have a footage from CCTV, from a security camera of a shop just in front. So we saw what happened clearly. And there we are, oh, so good, so now I can catch that guy, you know. And when they show us the footage, we see that behind us there was an armed robbery. And the guy was shooting in the direction where we were. And one passing person that was looking behind saw it and pushed us to protect us because the bullet was coming in our direction. And basically he saved our lives. And the police are saying, look, you are very lucky. Because if this man put his life in danger to save you. And actually, you are here. Sorry for your arm, but if it was not for him pushing you, the bullet was exactly in the direction where you were. Is my arm still painful? Actually, yes. You know, there the arm is there. But do I still have the same anger towards the person? No. What has transformed from anger towards gratitude? You saved my life. Maybe I transfer the anger to another object, the armed robbery. But that object completely transforms. What changed? My perception. Is this clear? Okay. Now I will give a more extreme example. Okay, don't take it as like this is, you know, when they do in television, don't do this at home. So, it is said that one of the previous lives of Buddha, before being a fully enlightened being, he was in a period somewhere where some part of some religious activities and it was banned. So basically, he went to receive some teachings, and because of that, he was caught and he was tortured and killed. Okay, making it short. And then, while he was being tortured, and he was dying, it is said that he manifested very clearly still his gratitude for the teachings that he had received. And he had deep compassion for the guy that was killing him. And no anger at all. Because he has the perspective that the pain that he was receiving and the experience that he was having was nothing else than the manifestation of his own actions of the past, of his own karma. And that guy was only a condition for it to manifest. So he had compassion on him. He was sorry that this man was forced by the law to do such a violent act. And he had full awareness that this was just his own karma manifesting. And he was saying, okay, good that that part of some negative karma I did somewhere, it's going away. And I'm grateful for the teachings I received, for the connection I made with Dharma. So, it's a matter of perspective. There he is, being killed. He can die with gratitude and with peace in mind, or with anger and hatred. Same situation. Can we see the different perspective? Now, If a person comes and harms me, can I see that as an object of anger? Can I see that as someone that is making me suffering and is harming me? Does it fulfill that functions and characteristics? I would say yes. So, is it a wrong perception? No. If we look from another perspective, yes, but that's not the end. We'll get later to it. So, initially we'll say, yes, that's a correct perception. But then, what if I see that the person acting out of so much anger and violence and cruelty, is doing that out of his ignorance, and I feel compassion, since I wish you so much to act differently. And I see it as a precious opportunity to deal with my own selfishness. And I recognize that my suffering is the result of my own previous actions. Is it a wrong perception? Can it fulfill that functions? Yes. So we have two correct perceptions. Which one to choose? The one that is more beneficial for us. I can be in front of the same situation and I can see it as an object of anger or an object of compassion. Which is the right one? Most probably both. Which one should I choose? The one that is more beneficial to me. I prefer compassion than anger. So, the wonderful thing, there are many wonderful things, but one wonderful thing about interdependence between internal and external reality is that we go beyond what is the right perception and what is the wrong perception. There are many right perceptions and there are many wrong perceptions. So the question is not if what I am seeing is right or wrong. The question is, within being right or wrong, is it good or bad for me? The way how I relate to reality. I don't know if it's clear, this. Okay? So, the first step is to be aware that we live within a paradigm, that we live within our own perception. And when we clean the glasses, reality looks more beautiful. When we change the color of the lenses, changes reality. It's the example that I gave on the first day. If we take an object, okay, and we put it in balance, okay, the fact that it is in balance, it depends basically on three parts. The center one, and the weight on the two sides. Okay? So we have one side, another side, and the center. What happens is that in order to keep balance, or I need to keep the same weight, the right weight on each side, or I need to keep the right position of the center. Because even if the weight is not even, if the position changes, it will keep the balance. Okay? The weight on the sides are the external conditions. As situations change, it may make more weight to one side or to another. So in order to bring balance back, we need to put energy on the opposite direction to bring back the weight to the other side. Or we need to change the position of the mind, which is the center. How easy or how possible it is to make the reality in which we live perfect. In other words, Are we or are we not trying to make the world in which we live perfect? And by world, I don't mean the universe and the planet Earth. By world, I mean the people who we live with, our own little reality, our own little bubble. Do we try to make it as we want it to be? Yes. Does it work? Not really. Sometimes it looks like, and then again something else. Okay? So, there is a very simple rule. When one problem ends, what happens? Another problem starts. And there is another part of this rule which says, what happens when this rule fails? One problem ends and there is no new problem starting. We create one. And I have been thinking about it and asking myself, why? Why, when one problem ends, another one begins, and when no new problem begins, we create one? Let's make some examples. You know, we are hungry, we get food. Then after, we feel that we ate too much. You know? Or, this is a very practical way, okay, one problem finished, another one starts. Or we feel too tired and sleepy, but we cannot make our siesta because we need to go to work or whatever. Another problem starts. No? On the other side, we have a difficulty, we overcome it, and we have no actually real tangible problems. But then starts, that person didn't talk to me in the way how I expected, that one didn't look to me in the way how I expected, my life is not as good as I wanted to be, you know, our politician is doing this, the person in the other part of the world is that, you know, why the snow mountains are not pink? I don't know. Wouldn't it be cool if the snow mountains would be pink? And then, you know, we can make it a big suffering out of it. And we can even try to make a whole movement to paint the snow mountains pink. So, what happened is that, why? Because this, in the Western rich world, we can see this very clearly. Because most of us don't have really tangible problems. And we can see this by making a very simple question to ourselves. Do we have more physical suffering or mental suffering? Mental suffering. Okay. So the question is why? When we feel suffering, when we feel insatisfaction, when we are not well, for whatever reason, what do we try to do? To understand the processes that goes inside of us, or to find someone to blame? Some situation, a person. Normally, when we feel suffering, we must find the cause, the one to blame for. Right? There is even some scientific research showing that we judge situations based on context. No, sorry, we judge emotions and feelings based on context. So basically what happens is, I don't feel well, and I am in a hot day. Who's to blame? The weather. I wake up and I don't feel well, and who is by my side? My husband, my wife. Who is me to blame? The husband, the wife. What happened basically, it's something very interesting. We are feeling happy, or we are feeling sad, whatever is our emotions or feelings, we look for something to justify what we are feeling around us. And we have an incredible creativity. I remember one time I was in India, going from India to Kathmandu, and I was in the airport of Calcutta. And there I was with the trolley, full of luggage, going from the domestic part of the airport of Calcutta to the international part of the airport of Calcutta. And the airport was being restructured, renovated. So we needed to go through the parking. There was no way inside to go, like outside. It was extremely hot. I was alone. The road was not well paved. They were remaking the road, so it was full of holes with a little trolley that would get stuck every half a meter. You know? I had some little feeling because I didn't have so much time to catch the next plane to Kathmandu. But as I was in the middle of that situation, which I haven't seen anything pleasurable in it, I had so much joy. I had like an outburst of happiness. And I remember very well. And there I was, dragging this car with so much happiness. And then I questioned myself, why? And it was so interesting because I couldn't find a reason. So that moment it made clear to me that what I was feeling, it was not coming from the external conditions. No? And then I just relaxed and allowed myself to experience that happiness without developing attachment towards something or aversion towards something else. Because when we feel happiness and we project it on something, I project it on the sun and the nice heat. Then when I see the shadow, I have aversion to the shadow. So our tendency is, whenever we feel happiness, we must find something to justify our happiness around. It cannot come from inside. Whenever we feel sad or suffering or unsatisfied, you know, what we try to do? Find something or someone to blame for our sufferings, for our unhappiness. And by this, we are constantly trying to change the world around us, to make it fit to our expectations, to our needs, to our wants. And it's extremely tiring. So why do we create always problems? Because we have deep insatisfaction. Out of our own selfishness, out of our own ignorance. So until we have insatisfaction, there must be something that is causing my suffering, something that is causing my insatisfaction. Because if it was only for me, I would be the most satisfied person in the world. But the world is not good enough for me, that's why I'm insatisfied. That's what we do often. So why we create always problems? Because there is insatisfaction. There is anxiety. There is fear. And so when we need to find something or someone to blame for our emotions, for our feelings. And so we are always creating problems. I remember one time a person that I know very well, a friend, many years ago, not so many, some years ago. And all the situations were really good. Conditions were really wonderful. But the person had some sort of habit of getting angry. And the days were passing, and there was nothing to blame the anger on, you know? Because everything was really good. And I talked to this person not long ago, talking about the situation, and he said, yes, it's true. So there he was, and the situations were wonderful, and I could see as the days were passing that he was having this uncomfortable feeling inside that was building up. But he had nowhere where to blame it, because things were really good. So he was doing the exercise to take it out, to push it down, because anyhow everything was good. And then when appeared the first opportunity of someone that did something that he didn't like or he didn't agree, okay, like this atomic bomb that exploded with words and actions, you know. So what happened is that we have many habits. One of the habits that we have is to complain and to criticize. It's a really bad habit. One of the parts of Lojong that we are going to go through the next days are the vows and commitments. But there is one vow which says, 5 and 6, page 43. 神咒开呀没什么，养了娘不绝没吃神咒开呀没什么。Don't speak of others' incomplete qualities. Don't concern yourself with others' business. Okay. Don't speak of others' incomplete qualities means do not criticize. Don't concern yourself with others' business. Mind your own self. Okay? Page 43. Yeah. Page number 43. Which is the vow number 5 and 6. We're going to see this afterwards. But this is why these vows are there. Because we have the tendency, and these vows were written in the 11th century in Tibet, okay? So, these vows are there because our tendency is to criticize others, think about the life of others, and project our own insatisfaction and suffering into others. This doesn't mean that there is no such thing as negative actions or wrong actions or violent actions. Sure there are. At the same time, there are also some behaviors that we don't know how to deal with it well. But the point that we want to reach first today here is that we experience reality through our habits. We experience reality through our own perception. And for that reason, reality is like an illusion. Why? What is an illusion? An illusion is something that appears differently than what it is. Okay? That's what it means to be an illusion. A movie. If I go to the movie theater or I look in the television and I see a scene and I believe that there is a person there, is it that an illusion? Yes. No, if we are looking at a terror movie and we get afraid, is there an illusion inside that? Or if we look at something that arouses on us desire and we develop desire. Like one time happened this to me, me and my father and my sister, we were watching television in Brazil many years ago. I was quite small, before going to India. And then suddenly, there was a publicity of chocolate cookie with drops of chocolate. And as the publicity finished, we looked to each other, all with water in our mouth. And we said, we want it. I want it. My father stood up, took the car, went to the supermarket to buy that cookie. Because he said, oh, it worked so well. No? So what happened is that when I'm looking at the television, the cooking, actually, what do I get? Is there an illusion in it? is there any cookie there? No, it's just pixels, just little dots of colors with sounds. But I relate to it and I see it as if it was the cookie and I generate attraction to it. So there is an illusion in that. What is the illusion that is in television? That it appears as being the object when actually it is not. It's like the first movie that was made was not exactly the first movie made, but was one of the first movies shown to people. Was of a train coming in the direction of the audience. And the first time that it was a very, very short movie. And people would go into the theater, and then suddenly there was this railway and there was the train coming in the direction. And people would stand up and run away. Imagine you have never seen a movie. And suddenly you sit there and you see this big screen and suddenly you see the train coming in your direction. What is the illusory aspect of that? That it appeared as a train when actually it is not. Okay? So what it means when something is an illusion? It appears differently than what it is. So, going back to the beginning of today, when we look at the mirror, is there an illusion going on? What is the illusion? It appears to us as if we are seeing our face. When we look at the mirror, do we believe we are seeing our own face? Are we seeing our face? We are seeing the reflection of our face in the mirror. What happens if the mirror is a little bit dirty at one point and we continue to look at the face, What happens if in our whole life we have only looked at a curved mirror? We will think we are very skinny. And what if the mirror was curved in the other way around? We will see us very fat. And then suddenly someone shows us a flat mirror and we say, no, that's not me. And just one brackets in between. I like to think, what is the difference in self-identity that happened since the invention of mirror and pictures? Because some centuries ago, there were mirrors, but they were very rare. Most of the people would not see their face often. I'm quite sure there was a different way of relating to oneself. Anyhow, that's another subject. Okay? The point is that when we see ourselves in the mirror, what is the illusion going on? We believe that we see our face, when actually what we see, the reflection of our face in the mirror. Is it clear, this? So no one of us have ever seen our own face. It's quite shocking when we really think about it, at least for me. So now, we go back to our text. Okay, page number 31. Verse number 8. And it says, Teda kunkan chokyi tokpe time ma bakshin shokun gyumar shebe le shenme chingwa le trol show. To remind untarnished by stains of conceptions concerning 8 passing things throughout all of this, and that knows, a mind that knows all phenomena as an illusion, may I break free from my bondage without clinging. That knows all phenomena as an illusion. What is the illusory aspect of all phenomena? First question, does reality exist? Yes, it does. Second question. Does it exist as it appears, or it appears in a way different from what it is? I make it more clear. Okay, reality exists. That's a good start. Is reality objective, or is reality subjective? It's subjective, right? We have seen that, we have talked about this the whole morning. So we have no doubt of that, right? Reality exists, but it exists to each one of us through the relationship with our own perception. Clear? Now, how does the subjective reality exist? As appearing to us, or better, how does the subjective reality appears to us? As being subjective, or it appears as being objective? Objective. Okay? So, the subjective reality appears to us as if it was objective. This means there is an illusory aspect. What is the illusory aspect? It appears differently than what it is. To see all phenomena as an illusion doesn't mean to see that nothing exists. Okay? I repeat. To see all phenomena as an illusion doesn't mean to see all phenomena as non-existent. As non-existent. Doesn't mean that. It means that phenomena exist, but it doesn't exist as it appears. There is an illusory aspect in it. And what is the illusory aspect? It appears as being objective when actually it is subjective. Okay? Reality appears to us as if it was of an inherently objective existence, as it exists by its own self, by its own characteristics, when actually it exists in dependence with the observer. Is it clear this for us? Okay, that's a very important point. So, let's make a diagram in our mind, okay? On the top we take any object. Let's say the glass. Okay, so we make one box for the glass. Okay? Then we make another box down. And on the lower box, we put inherent existence, which we can give different names to it. Inherent existence, objective existence, self-existence, autonomous existence, existing independently of the observer. Okay? So we have two boxes, clear? Then we put another two boxes on the sides. On one box we write, it is. On the other box we write, it is not. So, and we make two connections. So when we follow one connection, it says, the glass, it is objective, of objective existence. The glass, it is of inherent existence, of self-existence, of autonomous existence. That's ignorance. Then on the other side we say the glass, it is not of objective existence. It is not of inherent existence. It is not of autonomous self-existence. That is wisdom. The only difference between ignorance and wisdom in this case is that one affirms and the other negates the same thing. So, basically, let's make another example. The glass, it is permanent. The glass, it's not permanent. The glass is permanent, ignorance. The glass is not permanent, which means impermanent, wisdom. Okay? So, we don't need to go to look so far for wisdom. Wisdom is actually where is ignorance. You just need to turn it around. If you look for wisdom far away from ignorance, you will never get it. Why? Because the object of negation of wisdom is the object of affirmation of ignorance. And the only way to negate it is by first seeing it. As Shantideva said, we cannot, without entering in contact with the designated object, it's not possible to apprehend its known existence. Without entering in contact with the designated object, the permanence of the glass, it's not possible to apprehend its known existence, the known existence of the permanence of the glass. So the first step, in order to have a correct view of reality, is understanding and grabbing at the wrong view of reality. The next step is seeing it as wrong. Okay, so basically, here it says, know all phenomena as an illusion. So, when we see something, when we listen to something, and especially when we have anger, when we have jealousy, when we have miserliness, when we have arrogance, pride, any strong mental defilement that arises, question yourself. Does it truly exist as it appears? Does it truly exist in this autonomous, independent way? Or is this an illusion? It's like watching a movie, feeling afraid of what is showing in the movie and asking oneself, is it really happening, that thing, for me to be afraid? Or that's just pictures being shown? Okay? So basically, the more we are able to remind ourselves that we live within an illusion, that reality does exist, but it appears to us in a way that it is not, which means it appears to us as being independent and existing out of its own characteristics, when actually it only exists in the relationship with the observer. In other words, it appears to us as if it would be independent of our own filters, when what we see is the result of all the filters that we put in. So there is an illusion. Is this clear? So basically, if we are able to apply this well to ourselves, it's a long, long process. But then, through this, it will allow us to be free from our bondage, which means we'll be free from our own ignorance, which means means that we can be free from our selfishness, and as a consequence, to be free from hatred, from aversion, from fear, from jealousy, from envy, from insatisfaction, from anxiety, and so on. Realizing non-conceptually the interdependence of phenomena, the true nature of reality. This is what is the key to be liberated from all our suffering. But it must go together with the development of love. There is no other way. Okay. So by opening our heart towards others, and all the verses that came before, they were very clear on that. It doesn't matter with whom we are, in what situation. We must go beyond the selfish love. Selfish love is where we are truly attracted to our own happiness, and we are attracted to those that are a cause of our happiness. Okay? What we call unconditional love is where we love others independently of what they are for us. So, from verse 1 to verse 6, to verse 7, it is showing us how to develop this unconditional love. It's training ourselves to develop unconditional love. Then on verse 8, it is bringing us, the first part of verse 8 is saying, we must do that, but be careful. If you do all the training of love attached to your own image as the good and kind person, then there is, it's like between us and what we do, there is a little veil in between that do not allow us truly to get in touch with it. I don't know if it's clear, this. It's like, how to say, imagine that we get in touch with some substance and it's really good for us, but between there is a very, very small plastic line, plastic covering in between. It's transparent, we don't see it, but it doesn't allow that to permeate on us. This is when we have a strong attachment to our own idealized image of being the good person. And we do the development of love, not out of real love, but we end up actually generating an identity of being the good guy, or the good woman, the good person, instead of truly loving others. That's a danger, that's a trap. So how do I know if I truly love you? Am I truly attracted, non-conceptually, to your happiness or not? Do I have a version of your suffering or not? It's the first thing. So once we develop this great love, together with it, we have this wish to help others. But what is creating all the suffering? Mainly, ignorance. If it was not for ignorance that manifests as selfishness, that manifests with anger, with craving, with so many aspects, there would be no suffering. Does the world have enough resources for everyone? If used in the right way? Yes. But even if we put 5 people together, 2 people together, 1 person alone even. But let's start with 2 people. Or even a little larger group, you know. Why is it so difficult to have harmony in a group? Why is it so difficult to have harmony in a family? Because to have harmony in a group, which can be a family, can be a spiritual group, can be in the work, in any context, To have harmony in a group means to have harmony between the mental defilements of all the people. You know? And we have an idealized image that the group must be always peaceful and happy and enjoy each other. But then each one of us, we bring our expectations, our pains, our wounds, our anger, our fears, our projections, our attachments, that they don't fit. And when we have a larger group, like here in the center, for example, not so big group, but it's larger than a normal family, for me it's very clear. When one gets well, the other is bad, you know? Then you fix here, then you look there, again another problem there. Then that one is peaceful, then the other one will get angry. It's always like this. Why? Because we have our own expectations, we have our own projections, we have our own fears, and we bring this wherever we go. And we experience the world through it. So until we are not well with ourselves, we cannot relate in a healthy way with others. It's impossible. So basically, this is the meaning when Rinpoche says inner peace is the most solid foundation for world peace. The only true way to make a change is transforming our deeper aspects of ourselves. Otherwise, wherever we go, we take ourselves with us, no? Sometimes people say, oh, I want so much to take some vacation from myself. That's not possible, I'm sorry. And sometimes people try to do that by using drugs, by using alcohol, by doing whatever, just to disconnect from oneself. But then you wake up again. And there you are. So we have no choice, truly speaking, other than to deal with our expectations, to deal with our sufferings, and to take care of it in the best way as we can. And actually, through the correct view of reality, through understanding that everything that exists is actually an illusion, because it doesn't exist as it appears. Nothing is objective as it appears. Everything is subjective. And when I change the perspective of 1 degree, I change the reality. So, by that, then we are able to go beyond. What we saw before, that anger, jealousy, pride, miserliness, desire, and satisfaction, they all build up on a common ground. What is the common ground that supports all these defilements? The grasping at its objects as existing in such way inherently, objectively. When we have desire, the object of desire is an object of desire by its own self and characteristic. When there is aversion, the object of aversion is an object of aversion by its own self and characteristic. So when, through the correct view of reality, we actually realize that this is an illusion, we shake that ground. And we shake it again and again until it doesn't exist anymore. And then when there is no more this ground, the other negative emotions and perceptions, they cannot arise. That's why the correct view of reality is the key to liberate ourselves from suffering. Where is the difficulty? It is not only a conceptual process. It is not enough to understand. We need to apply it again and again, again and again. And after a long, long process, slowly, slowly it starts entering into every aspect of our life. Until we can experience everything through it. I'm oversimplifying it. Yet, there has been said by in some holy text, I don't remember now, it's some sutra of the Buddha, which says, the simple fact of doubting, not being sure, only doubting if phenomena exist inherently, objectively or not, it's already hitting in the face, punch in the face of ignorance. But ignorance is strong. So we are on the right path. That's wonderful. That we can talk about this, that we can share it, that we can reflect upon reality. And there is a mean to realize it. So basically our mental training, our mind training has two main aspects, which are wisdom, understanding the interdependence in which we live, and method, love and compassion. Expand the wish to be happy, the attraction to happiness, and the aversion to suffering, expand it from ourselves to others. These are the two wings that we need to develop to fly to enlightenment. And if you take all Buddha's teachings, they come down to these two aspects. So here, by developing these two aspects, may I break free from my bondage, the bondage of my ignorance, of my defilements, such as anger and insatisfaction, without any attachment. Shenme, without clinging, without attachment. The crazy thing is that we are attached to our ignorance. We are attached to our selfishness. Somehow we are even attached to suffering. So we need to allow it to let it go. When we see that some behavior is wrong, sometimes we are not able to change the behavior, not because we do not recognize it as wrong, but because we are so attached to be right. That changing the behavior means accepting that I was wrong. I don't know if it's clear, this. So, without attachment to our inherent existence, without attachment to us being the center of the universe, without attachment to being the one that is always right, and so on. But then we change our reality, we change our behavior, we change the way we speak, we change the way we think, we change the way we act. In secrecy. And by that we gradually get free from our own state of sorrow. I personally don't believe there is any other path. And what I'm talking is not, it's part of Buddhism, but I'm not saying that it's the only religious path of Buddhism. Independently of if we recognize ourselves within a religion or not. If we are on the path of developing love and wisdom, wonderful. Call it whatever way you like. With the name of a god or many gods, with the name of no god. The important thing is that you truly open your heart and relate to the reality in a consistent, coherent way. That's all. And it's fine. But one very important thing that we must get to it. We can only do this by training, by repetition, by familiarizing ourselves with it again and again, again and again, again and again, again and again, and then gradually we can make a change. There is no other way. That's why we need to make commitments. That's why we take vows. Why we make a commitment to not criticize others? Because we like criticizing others. It comes naturally, spontaneously. So to make a vow is to protect ourselves from our own bad habits. Like just sharing a personal experience. One time I made a commitment to myself not to talk about my good actions to others. Okay. So I had this thing, okay, if I do something good, I don't need to go to other people saying, oh, look how good I am, no? Then one morning, I woke up and I did something that I was wanting to do since a long time. And that morning I was able to do it really well, and I was very happy about it. Then I went to Rinpoche house to the breakfast table. I never took breakfast before. And I went there to the breakfast table, and I was looking and waiting for the opportunity to say it. And then there I was finding a context to say it. Then I looked to myself, I say, shut up, you know. What are you doing? You don't need to say to others. You should not say to anyone. Because then you completely change the reason of what you were doing. No? Change the nature of it. I said, okay. Then I change object, all conversation, go on. Then I try again. No, stop. Okay, then I stopped. Then suddenly in the tip, it came out. I just said it. And then, okay, now that I start saying it, let's say it complete, no? The good thing of that was that I saw the mechanism in myself to help me so that I regenerate my commitment. And by seeing the mechanism, it helped me to protect the next time, not to do it again. So once we make the commitment, for example, not criticizing others, we will be able to stop criticizing others all at once? No. And you will see, we will find the most incredible creative way to criticize others as it seems like we are not criticizing others. No, we are very creative when we need. So, it takes time, but by making the commitments, we direct our mind. Okay, that's why in the next days, I want to give emphasis to the commitments of the mind training. But we can change our behavior, I have any doubt, any one of us, if we apply that change in our everyday life. If we act as what we want to be, not as what we are. If we act in accordance to what we are already, we will just continue to be more of what we are already. If we act in accordance to what we want to be, slowly we become it. So do I want to be a selfish person or do I want to be an altruistic person? It's a choice. Do I want to be humble or do I want to be pride and arrogant? Do I want to act in an ignorant way or do I want to be with wise and act with wisdom? It's a choice that we have. So once we make the choice, we act in accordance to what we want to become and not to what we are. Just to make one simple example of that, is that, sometimes we have the tendency to justify our wrong behavior because someone else also has that wrong behavior. No. We should always look upwards to someone better than us, to a better example of what we want to become. We can always compare to someone that is worse than us. That's simple. But we should look upwards. That's what I want to become. So I follow it. I act as if I was there. I act in that direction. Am I a pure, perfect bodhisattva? No. But I act as one because that's what I want to become. Am I truly kind and gentle and loving to others? Not yet. But I act with sincerity as if I was. So gradually I become. Is it easy to train ourselves in this way? Does it take energy? A lot. But, in life, anyhow, we need to spend our energy in life. Anyhow, we go through, trouble. Like, life is not easy. So it's better to have difficulties that bring us good result than having difficulties that bring us no result. Or better, no good result. So, this text for me is a very, very precious one. It's a very precious guide as long as we use it. Which doesn't mean only reading it. It means remembering it to our daily life and trying to apply to every action that we follow. Okay, so now we will read once together the verses, and then we'll conclude here for today. And then, as today is the last day of the year now.
Yes.
Okay. A little bit. I always have difficulty understanding this concept of last day of the year. That's another problem. It's my problem, anyhow. It's actually very auspicious that we conclude this verse today here. And we put it as an objective as we close one cycle and we start another. How do I want internally to behave? What do I want to be? What do I want to become? Okay? Very often we have objectives and wishes for the new year. I wish you a happy new year. I don't wish you necessarily a happy new year because there will be a lot of problems. I wish you a new year in which you can deal with the difficulties and grow up with them. I wish you a new year in which you can place a higher objective and follow it and transform every adversities on your path, make it good use of it. I wish you a year where the good things, you enjoy them. Where the difficult things, you overcome them. If we make an idealized image, then it's never enough. Is it going to be a happy year? What it means a happy year? Question, have you ever had a year when you were always happy? No. So don't expect it for 2019. Are there going to be difficulties? Many. Is everything going to be as we expect and hope? No. But what I wish for everyone is that we can truly transform every situation, use it for our own growth. So when we get to the end of 2019, maybe it was a difficult year, maybe it was an easy year. But when we look backwards, we see I am a better person than last year. That's what we want most of all. I have more kindness. I act with more wisdom. And one of the greatest things of the teaching of Lojong is that there are no excuses for not practicing. When a moment is good and wonderful, we can practice. When the moment is difficult, we can also practice. So this is what I wish, So with this, we put an objective and then we follow it. So that's why I think it's very auspicious to conclude this year with this text this way. Okay? So now let's read it together. I will read each verse First in Tibetan, then we read together in English. Danye simchen tamchela yishin orbul hel hakpe tunchu drube sambayi takto cheber zimbersho. May I cherish all limited beings by considering how far superior they are to wish-granting gems for actualizing the supreme aim. Kanto sudan dropetse dani kunle menta shin shen la samba takpayi chokto cheber zimbersho. Whenever I come into anyone's company, may I regard myself less than everyone else, and from the depths of my heart value others more highly than I do myself. Cholom kunto rangula tokchin nyomon kemata dakshin marun chebena centab dongne doprasho. Whatever I am doing, may I check the flow of my mind, and at the moment that conceptions or disturbing emotions arise, since they debilitate myself and others, may I confront and avert them with forceful means. Ranshingembe semcheni diktun trapo nön tongse rinchen terdan trebashin nyebrkawe chinzin sho. Whenever I see beings instinctively cruel, overpowered by negativities and serious problems, may I cherish them as difficult to find as discovering a treasure of gems. Dala shenge tradogi shikur laso mirikpe kyonka rangi lembadan gyalka shenla bulwarsho. When others, out of envy, treat me unfairly with scolding, insults, and more, may I accept the loss upon myself and offer the victory to others. Kanla dagi pentakpam rewa chewa kanshiki shindumirik nöchenam shenyen tamba tawarsho. Even if someone whom I have helped and from whom I harbor great expectations were to harm me completely unfairly, may I view him or her as a hallowed teacher. Dorna, muedam gyubai pendemanam kunla bul, mi nöche dunga kun sangwe dala lembrasho. In short, may I offer to all my mothers, both actually and indirectly, whatever will benefit and bring them joy, and may I hiddenly accept upon myself all my mother's troubles and woes. Teda kungan chökeki tope trime ma bakshin chokun gyumar shebelu tak sheme chingwa le troll sho. Through a mind untarnished by stains of conceptions concerning 8 passing things, throughout all of this, and that knows all phenomena as an illusion, may I break free from my bondage without any clinging. Jetsun lame kutsera penchi namkara chile chochu yekara losan tempe jome sasungi joe munse tatu negi uchi chancho semcho rinpoche makye panam gegi uchi yepa nyampa nepaya kone chontu bewa nimo dele sendele nime kuyam dele shin minse tatu dele pe koncho sungi jingiro koncho sungi nodruso koncho sungi kashishu. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. All'alba o al tramonto,
durante il giorno, possono ricevere concederci le loro benedizioni, possono aiutarci a ottenere tutte le realizzazioni e cospargere il sentiero della nostra vita con molti segni di buon auspicio.
Omahu Tambalame Sangye Rinpoche, Gyobalame Tamcho Rinpoche, Tembalame Gendu Rinpoche, Gyapne Koncho Sulacho Babu. Buon appetito, grazie a tutti. Una cosettina sola, pratica. che volevo ricordare a tutti che oggi, come ultimo giorno di quest'anno, abbiamo la tradizione di fare la lotteria del centro, che non è altro che un modo per fare una cosa carina e dare un po' di sostegno al centro a pagare le bollette. Tutto lì. Quindi ricordare a tutti di comprare più biglietti possibili. So just to remember, as today is the last day of the year, we have this tradition in the center to make this lottery of the end of the year, which is just a way to have something nice together and to help the center to pay its bills. So basically, buy as many tickets as you can. This was the request that I received and I passed it to you.